Good morning, little enzymes. Welcome back to Dacia's Digest. Happy Tuesday. The topic of today's video is going to be caregiver fatigue. So this video might be a little bit heavier than some of the recent ones that we've covered. Before we get started, anything that you see or hear in this video will be linked in the description. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. By the time I post this, we will likely be at 6,500 subscribers already, which is crazy because literally it feels like just yesterday we started this channel. So we are on a road to 10K for the month of September. So hope that we can get there, but we shall see. So let me go ahead and start the video. This one was cross-posted to our subreddit Dacia's Digest, but it was originally posted on 2 Hot Takes. My legally blind dad was left at my house by his wife. She never came back to get him. Hey y'all, I wanted to get opinions and make sure that I'm not the only one who sees that my dad's wife has some serious issues. For a little background information, my dad, 66, and my mom, 59, divorced when I, female 30, was 15. The divorce was needed, in my opinion, because my parents were super toxic together. My dad married his wife close to a year after his divorce with my mom. In my personal opinion, she, dad's wife, has always been pretty passive-aggressive and has never liked me. It bothered me quite often, but I never spoke my opinion on the situation because my dad was a completely different but better person after he married her. I loved seeing my dad actually happy and in a better place in his life. A few years ago, literally the year he retired, my dad found out that he has an eye condition that basically puts spots in his vision. Over time, it has gotten worse and is now at the point where he is legally blind. Bruh, that's terrifying. Like, one of the biggest fears is losing one of your senses. That's just terrifying. Like, you live your whole life being able to see and then you slowly start to lose your vision. I would be so scared. It would be different if I was born without vision, then I would be kind of used to it. But just slowly, day by day, losing it. Every day you wake up and it's just worse and worse and worse. I would be so scared. I had COVID, a couple years ago or whatever when it was rampant, and I lost my sense of taste. And it was such a odd experience, so odd. Like, everything that I ate, I just felt the texture. It just felt like I was eating texture of food with a very, very slight essence of what the food might taste like a thought of what the food might taste like, but just not having that one sense of taste. I didn't like it. It was, yeah. So she says, over time, it has gotten worse and worse, and now is at the point where he is legally blind. He can do basic things for himself, and a lot of the time goes off of feel and memory. It was devastating for him. He had so many plans for when he retired, and now he can't do most of the things he loves to do because of his sight. Fast forward to now, they have been married 14 years, 15 years in a few days. My dad called me about a month ago and told me that his wife invited some of their friends over under the guise of celebrating her birthday. The friends came over and exchanged gifts with her. Then she pulled my dad into their bedroom and told him that she wanted a separation and that their friends were at the house to take him where he needed to go. He obviously can't drive at this point. He refused, saying that he didn't have anywhere to go, and he was blindsided, no pun intended, by this. He hadn't even had a chance to talk to my brother, 34, and I about it to see if he could stay with one of us. We both live about 3 hours away from him. Him and his wife moved away a few years ago. So my dad literally had no one in town that he could stay with. That's messed up. That's messed up. Y'all been married for 15 years and all of a sudden, just because he's losing his sight, you want a separate. Well, I don't know if that's the reason. I'm assuming that's the reason because the timing is coincidental. I will say, and I understand her potential feelings. Again, I don't know if the blindness is the reason why she's leaving or wants a separation, but it is hard being a caretaker. No matter how much you love somebody, it's tough. But 15 years and that's your husband? It's not just some boyfriend or whatever. This is your husband. You said for better or worse through sickness and in health. Till death do us part. What's going on? And you just kicking him out on the street blind? Like he's literally legally blind with nowhere to go, no one to stay with. That's crazy. So she continues, also, he wanted to work on the marriage and go to counseling to see if they could get past the argument that started this, which happened 6 months prior, by the way. My dad says that this is the only big argument that they have ever had in the 14 years that they have been together, and I believe him. So the friends ended up leaving. My dad stayed in his own home, and they agreed to go to counseling together. Oh, okay, so it seems that it wasn't the blindness. I'm over here making all these assumptions. They attended one session of counseling together, and then she attended one session by herself. My dad was supposed to go by himself to the next session. Then they would come back together for another session. So a few weeks go by, and my dad calls me again, asking if he can come stay with me for the week while his wife goes on a girls' trip with her sister. I, of course, let him come stay with me and my daughter. Before she dropped him off, she asked for his keys, stating that her daughter, who lives near them, needed to stay at their house while they were gone. He found it odd, but gave them to her anyway. I wouldn't have been given. Why can't the wife give the daughter her keys? Nope. That sounds fishy. The week goes by quickly, and he planned to call her on Friday to make sure that the plan to meet up halfway on Saturday to get him is still a go. She shady buttons his calls 5 times. Shady buttons. I guess that's like rejects the calls 5 times, and dread sets in for him. He tells me that he is getting the feeling that she isn't going to answer and is not going to pick him up on Saturday. Before going to bed, I hear them talking on the phone about their day, and they both sounded fine. The next thing I know, I hear my dad crying. He comes into the room and literally wails, saying, "She isn't coming to get me. She's already talked to a lawyer and wants a divorce." Oh, man, I feel bad for this guy. At this point, I am so sad for my dad and so furious at her for blindsiding him yet again and leaving him. Since then, he cries every single day. He's losing a ton of weight and is just straight up depressed. Then she sends him divorce papers stating that he doesn't get any of the house that they bought when they moved. She put only her name on the house and the loan paperwork. He was legally blind by the time they moved. Wow. I just don't see how any of this is justified and am literally shaking while typing this out. I have so much hate in my heart for her, but so much sadness in my heart for my dad and what he is going through. It sucks to see the man who raised you go through so much at once. Bruh, how evil can you be? You kicked out, and granted, I don't know what the argument was about. I don't know if there's irreconcilable differences that, if they want to get divorced, that's one thing. But you don't communicate. You have this plan in your head. You tried to kick out a blind man while he's 3 hours away from the nearest family that he has. He's legally blind when you signed the paperwork for the house, so he has seemingly no claim to the house at all. And then you're just like, oh, we're getting a divorce. We're getting a divorce. You're getting nothing. That's crazy. After 15 years of marriage. Oh. We are working through it all and trying to keep him as happy as we can, but we can only do so much as my brother and I both have young children. We love our dad so much, but didn't envision being in our 30s taking care of him. His wife gave a bogus excuse as to why she doesn't want to stay married to him anymore, and I think it's just because She doesn't want to have to help him and take care of him. What happened to in sickness and in health? It feels like she has planned this for far longer than we thought. Am I tripping? Or is she really as terrible as I think she is? Any advice on what to do next? Oh, okay, so maybe I was right. Because at the beginning, that's what I thought. She was wanting a divorce because of his illness. But then she mentioned that they had this supposed argument. But maybe the argument was more so like an excuse, something for her to hang her hat up on. So when people ask what happened, she has something to point to versus like sounding like an a-hole. Oh, my husband went blind, so I left him. She can say, oh, we had an argument, so I left him. I think that's really what's going on. Someone says, your dad needs a lawyer ASAP. It doesn't matter that stepmom put the house in her name. It was purchased while they were married, making it a marital asset. OP responded, luckily, he does have one that is helping him out since he's disabled. He's having such a hard time. Man, poor guy. And then that person replied, that's a good thing. To lose one's sight and then being abandoned like that is heartbreaking. Have you tried getting him grief counseling? OP responded, that's a great idea. I definitely didn't think of it that way. Thank you. That is a good idea. And then that person responded again, also get adult protective services involved. If she took advantage of his disability while buying the house, they might be able to fight for his rights to marital assets. Get yourself a durable power of attorney and a medical power of attorney. This way you can get involved with his financials. If something happens to him without the medical power of attorney, she has the right to make his medical decisions until the divorce becomes final. Ooh, this person is spitting in these comments. OP responded again, oh my goodness, I never thought of this either. Thank you so much. I'll talk to him about this ASAP. Those are all amazing suggestions. Then this person responded again, if his disability/social security check is going into an account she has access to, he needs a new account in a different bank so she can't access it. No reason for him to keep paying the bills for her. Investment, retirement, and life insurance beneficiaries need to be altered so she doesn't get anything he worked for. Courts will probably award her something from retirement and investment because those are marital assets. Can you tell that I've been reading Reddit for a while? You are in an emotional place to be thinking about these things, so it's understandable that the rational parts aren't 100% on board yet. Someone else responded, bro is just over here dropping helpful facts after helpful facts. For real, like I'm learning a lot from these comments. And then that commenter said, I've read too many posts about the fallout from this kind of horrible situation. OP has given a head start to start working on getting ahead of the curve. And then OP responded, we've taken care of the beneficiary's part and he took her bank card, so we are definitely going to have to set up a new account. Thank you so much for your help. Someone else says, get him to change his will as soon as possible. Maybe the lawyer can help with that as well as helping with the divorce. OP said, will do, thank you. And another person says, this could be fraud and or elder abuse. She belongs in jail. That sounds like it. Because the fact that he was already legally blind, and when they signed the paperwork, it's sounding like he didn't realize that his name wasn't on the loan or on the deed or anything else, because he was just trusting, I guess. I don't know. That's messed up. Someone else is saying, check his credit history ASAP to make sure he doesn't have opened up accounts in his name if she has been handling their finances due to his physical condition. Ooh, someone else. There's a lot of good advice in this comment section. Someone else said, I'm not sure about your state, but you may also be able to sue her for dropping him at your house without an agreement. It would be a tort/civil lawsuit. And right now, I cannot remember what it would fall under, but I swear I remember something like this being possible. OP responded, his lawyer said it could be a civil lawsuit for caretaker abandonment. Wow. Okay. Let me see if she has any updates. Not yet. No updates yet. Well, I hope for the best for the father. I couldn't even imagine. You're literally losing everything. Everything all at once, all within the span of like a very short amount of time. I would be so devastated. And then the one person who you were with for years, you trusted and loved them enough to marry them. You thought, they would be with you through thick and thin, literally drops you off at your kid's house and never comes back. Oh man. Okay. So here's the next one. My mother is in a dementia care home and it has ruined my life. There is content warning for self-unaliving and self-harm. So, my mom has early onset Alzheimer's. She is only 64, but has been in the home for 4 years now. Social Security pays about 60% of it, thankfully. I was able to get her my dad's benefits after he passed. He was in the same care home as her because I am fortunate to have that condition on both sides of my family genetic history. But him passing also lowered the amount of actual overall money coming in, so I went from paying about $2,000 a month and Social Security covering $6,000 to having to pay $1,800 a month and Social Security covering the rest. It is further complicated by the fact that my mom is unable to walk and so requires a much higher level of care. That said, I never had to worry about her wandering out of the care home, so there's that. I spent 7 years caring for her before she went into the home, so I know exactly how hard it is caring for her. 7 years. That is a long time. That is a long time. I have 2 brothers, one older, who has multiple children, and I could never ask him to help. My younger brother has a good job, but feels none of us should be helping them, and we should just let the government worry about it. My older brother feels this way as well, and has actually asked me for money several times this year alone. Yikes. I mean, what are the options for the government, like, helping? I guess maybe they'll say, dang, I wonder what the relationship with the parents was like, because the other 2 brothers don't really seem that invested as this person is. So they say, unfortunately, my boss decided to retire with very short notice, retired August 1st, decided to do so May 1st. Since then, I've had some part-time work and have sent out over 100 applications and was lucky enough to get COVID for the first time after not getting it the whole last 4.5 years, even though I worked in a doctor's office. Side note, I found out that if you're honest on your unemployment reporting and you say that you are ill and unable to work, they just don't pay you that week. Even though I was actively looking for work, it's still not good enough. What is the boss retiring? I'm assuming, since they say they worked in a doctor's office, I'm assuming the boss was the doctor, decided to retire, and so as a result, the whole doctor's office was absolved, and so then this person had to look for work. They say even though I was actively looking for work, it's still not good enough. So at this point, I've got my finances planned for about 3 weeks in the future, as emergency dental work this year wiped out all of my savings. Even with insurance, it still cost me a solid $8,000. I am hoping for the best. My former boss said he'd write me a letter of recommendation and check if any of his friends were looking for someone with my skill set, but then he asked me to write the draft of the letter and just gave me his friend's contact info to reach out myself. I hadn't expected help to begin with, but the bait and switch is just one more topping for the crab sandwich. It is truly disheartening. I have struggled with my mental health for years, and at this point, over the last 4 years, have spent over $100,000 on my parents' care. I never had to do it. No one made me do it. But what am I supposed to do? Let 2 people who don't even know what decade it is just rot in the street? I drive by homeless and mentally ill people all the time, and it tears me up inside because it could have been my mom and dad. I wish I could be cold and heartless and just walk away. Years ago, I had signed up for state care for my parents, and after my dad died, my mom actually got bumped up the list. But when they contacted me at the start of this year and told me she had been approved for a state home, it was 7 hours south of me, and the reviews for the place were horrible. I decided I could keep going and taking care of her as long as I had my job, which, even though my boss was older, he himself said he had no intention of retiring, and we had a specific business plan for at least 5 years that would result in me and my coworker taking over after my coworker finished his PhD and could take over the practice. Dang. I can't even talk to my mom anymore. I visit her and she doesn't recognize me. I call her and she speaks nonsense over the phone. She falls asleep mid-sentence and wakes up asking for my dad. I leave her care home and cry in my car before I can even drive home. Her sisters, both of whom work and have husbands who work, don't want to help because my mom dissolved a pregnancy early in the 80s and they believe she deserves to suffer for that. Oh, wow. Wow. I want my mom to pass away peacefully in her sleep so she can stop suffering, so I can stop suffering. I just need to hold on long enough for that to happen. But it is an extreme struggle for me. I have thought that if I was gone, someone would surely step up and help her, right? But there's just me. I have power of attorney. I'm the only one who knows her doctors, knows her condition, knows the government programs she's on. I was in therapy for close to 2 years, but had to stop when I lost my insurance after the job ended. I was luckily able to get a 6-month supply of my antidepressants because I'm terrified that if I go off of them, I will just give up and do something to hurt myself. I was the neglected middle child. My brothers were problem causers and needed their attention. They had no savings of their own, as my brothers cost them so much from their various problems. I love my mom, but the day she dies is the day both her and I are free. Every day, I hope I get that phone call. Oh, man. Man. This is a tough situation. Oh my goodness. Are they able to get her back on the government list, I wonder, to get a better placement? I mean, think of it this way. They're going to have to figure something out because pretty soon they're not going to have a choice. Like, this whole time they've been doing what they can to pay and do all that, but the money is running out. So like, pretty soon they're not going to have a choice. So what are they going to do? They're going to have to essentially do the thing that they were trying to avoid. What happens in this situation if the child is no longer able to pay? Then what does the government do in this situation? I guess maybe they would go to a government-funded care place, like the one they mentioned was like 7 hours away, something like that. Wow. And the fact that no other family member is willing to help. Her 2 sisters are just hanging their hat up on a decision she made 40 years ago. If I could help, I just couldn't imagine like completely just leaving my sibling out to dry, or my parent. Like, if I had the money. Now, if I didn't have the money, we'd have to figure out what we could do, what government programs we could, but dang. But that just goes to show not everyone has the same relationships. Like, clearly it sounds like there was a contentious relationship between the parents and the older and younger brother, because they're not even willing to help at all. Like, they just want the government to handle it. That says to me that the relationship between them and the parents wasn't good. Oh, man. This is why when people say, oh, have kids, because who's going to take care of you when you're young, when you're old? Obviously, in this case, you can't count on that. Goodness. Also, I think that's a terrible reason to have kids. All right, so let me look at the comments. This person says, I am a mother of 3 children. I would never want my child in your position. Put her in the other care home and take care of yourself. Also, I hope her sisters have terrible karma come upon them. Another person responded, the thought of putting my kid in a terrible financial situation like this is heartbreaking. I'd want them to put me in the cheaper home ASAP. Someone else responds, but see, I could never do that to my parents. I understand why OP can't either. The aunts and the brothers are all awful in my eyes. No heart. Someone else responded, I can't imagine allowing my brothers or their children to go through something like this. Just appalling. Yeah, I couldn't, but I have a good relationship with my brothers and my sister. So I would never. And like, I'm not super close with my parents, but again, if I could help, I would. Just to be like, oh, the government can take care of them. Man, that's tough. And yeah, the irony that they're saying the brothers were problem causers and needed the parents' attention. So that's the reason they had no savings, because it cost them so much money from the brothers' various problems. Like the irony that one of the potential reasons that the mom isn't able to have like her care paid for is because she spent all her money fixing the older and younger brothers' problems. And now that she has some issues that she needs help with and she needs financial support, they're nowhere to be found and they don't want to help. And they just want to let the government take care of it. The irony. This was a wake up call for me. I need to go check my 401k, making sure I have it maxed out because anything can happen. Someone said, if she has no assets and minimal income, look into Medicaid coverage. That should help you a lot. You are in a hard place. I wish you well. OP responded, unfortunately, the Medicaid option was the care home I mentioned. I have been in charge of her benefits for over 10 years, and it was one of the aspects I handled on my job in assisting our patients with government benefits. I have unfortunately gotten the maximum for her that I can get, and her care home and the staff there are too wonderful to change. Thank you for the kind words. Listen, they might be wonderful, but you don't have money. You're going to have to caretaker here. Yes, there are horrid care homes, but on the other side, it's hard to find positive reviews when it's not someplace for rich people who offer a whole list of unnecessary care and prices everything up. What you can do is a trial and be really vigilant. See if she's losing weight, ask about sores in her diaper or bed sores anywhere on her back. If she has any, ask for details about the treatment by positioning cushions, or with the money you have saved from putting her in a cheaper place, buy her an air mattress. If she's in a wheelchair, make sure she has an appropriate cushion. Check her clothes to see if they're clean. If you think it's necessary, just take her to the room and change her yourself. Go see her as often as you can. With nutritious food, the care home will let you feed her flavored vitamin jelly, etc., with minimal choking risk. I am a caretaker myself, and one thing I've noticed is that patients with Alzheimer's will forget about a lot of things, but remember somewhere that they are safe with certain persons. That's why certain members of the staff often replace others with difficult patients. Just seeing their faces will calm them. So you can become that person. You just have to be her ray of sunshine every time you see her. Bring her music from when she was younger. See what hits are making people of her generation sing and dance. She might not show any reaction, but it's a fact that music is used in music therapy for elders. That is true. Now, her attention span will be very, very short, but what is important is to repeat. That's how care homes function to make sure their residents won't be stressed 24/7, a daily routine. So your visits should become a routine too. She can't remember you, but she can open her heart to someone she knows she can trust. I had a patient like that. She has Alzheimer's too, and would stay immobile in her seat or wheelchair all day, barely blinking. She was very easy to work with, but would barely react to anything, except when her husband would come every day to feed her her lunch he had prepared himself. Then she would turn her body towards him. That was something she never did for anyone else, even when the veteran staff was feeding her. It was only that, but it was enough of a hint. It was obvious he was the only one she recognized the existence of. So really, it can be tiny hints. If she is calm at your side, it's already proof that you're doing a good job. It's okay if she falls asleep. If she was stressed, she wouldn't. And you know that Alzheimer's patients react badly to stress, don't you? Just stay at her side and watch over her. Lonesome elders are quiet, so it's hard to know that they are lonesome. You know she doesn't have very long left. Please make sure she has baggage of warmth and tenderness to take with her. Whew. I think that's great advice, honestly. I was going to say maybe she could go visit the other care home in person so she could see what it's like. Because even though they have bad reviews, as that person said, it just kind of depends on who is doing the reviewing. But I like the idea of doing a trial, seeing how it goes, making sure you're checking up on her, making sure she's being fed, not losing weight, doesn't have any sores, etc. And just seeing if that works. I mean, this person really doesn't have very many choices at this point. This was 2 days ago. They don't have any more posts. They do have a couple comments. I'll just go over some of the comments. Someone said, your parents had no money because of your brothers. If they were saving for retirement, they should have had hundreds of thousands of dollars in an IRA or had a pension. If neither of your brothers are drug addicts, I find it really hard to believe they caused your parents to have no money. I see what this person is saying, but I just feel like comments like these are so pointless because, okay, and how is that going to help the situation at hand? Like, this is literally a pointless comment. OP responded, I am not aware of what your parents did, but my parents never worked jobs that would have left them with hundreds of thousands of dollars saved up. Not everyone gets to have high-paying jobs for decades with no issues. My mother was rarely able to work outside the home due to my brother's issues when they were young. My older brother didn't graduate high school until the same year my younger brother did, for the record. That person responded again and said, you don't need a high-paying job to have a lot saved up. You just need to put money towards retirement early on, which was relatively easy when rent was $300 for a 2-bedroom apartment in the 80s. Okay, and OP said, hi, thank you for informing me of what my parents should have done. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have parents that plan for the future. Thank you. Exactly, like what? So then they say, not what I said. I said your brothers did not cause your parents to have no money. Your parents' retirement funds were depleted by poor planning on your parents' part. It sounds like your brothers needed a bit of extra help, but unless they were drug addicts that cost your parents $200,000, then you should stop blaming your brothers for your parents' failure to plan for retirement. OP responded, hey, considering my older brother was a drug addict and my younger brother an alcoholic, that would be the exact problem. Thank you for understanding why some people don't have money saved up. So then the reasoning that they're giving was actually low-key the reason. So like, again, why did you even leave this comment? This is not helpful at all. This is not going to make money magically arrive in the account. So, and those were the only comments that this person had. Yeah, I say go with that comment about just trying out the Medicaid facility and seeing where that goes. And again, honestly, they don't have much of an option. Okay, we have one more story. This one does have an update. So the first post was 3 months ago, June 15th, 2024. Am I the a-hole for not offering to care for my unwell ex-husband? I, 56 female, have been married to my wife, Angela, 56 female, for a year, and we're planning our first anniversary celebration with a trip overseas. I was very excited to spend this time with my wife, but unfortunately, my ex-husband, Dan, 58 male, had a recent hospitalization that's putting a damper on my plans. Backstory, I met Dan in college and we got married shortly after graduating when we found out that I was pregnant. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do, but looking back, it was a bad idea. I resented having to put my career aspirations on hold in order to be the full-time caregiver, and Dan resented having to be the main financial provider. However, this did not stop him from constantly bringing it up whenever I asked him to help with the kids or the home. He also never defended me when his mother would stop by unannounced and the household wasn't up to the queen's standard. I felt so exhausted and trapped, and if it weren't for my kids, Junior, 34, Sarah, 32 female, Michelle, 29 female, and Mike, 29 male, I would have left years ago. Unfortunately, Dan did not have the same values as me and blindsided me with divorce papers. It was a rough process, but after the first year of our divorce being finalized, I got my groove back, and within the next 4 years, I was able to get a nice apartment and good career. Okay. Present day. A couple of weeks ago, Dan was rushed to the hospital, and while the doctors were able to save him, his health took a turn for the worse. His wife is now essentially working to provide for their kids while her parents watch them to save on daycare. I learned all of this through my children, as I do not care to have any direct contact with Dan, but almost every time I talk to them, they always bring up how stressed and tired they are over having to look after their father. I thought I was just being a sympathetic ear, but a couple of days ago, my children came together to confront me about my lack of willingness to offer assistance to their father, and as their mother, I should want to care for him to make their own lives easier. Child. My children know that while I have a full-time job, I can make up my own hours, and they want me to come into his house at least twice a week to make sure he's clean and fed, or pay for a nurse to come do it. I refused, stating that Dan and I have been divorced for years and that their stepmom can handle it. That's when they told me that she didn't care about their dad like they do and is most likely hoping for him to pass so she can collect on his insurance policy as the legal wife. My daughter Sarah then began to cry and asked me if I cared whether or not she had a dad anymore, while Junior and Mike thought I was being bitter. Michelle asked me to put them first and that I can reschedule my anniversary trip with Angela. My former in-laws are also calling me to say that I need to do this and that I'd be a horrible mom. Am I the a-hole? Listen, I'm very sympathetic to his situation. Very, very, very sad and unfortunate situation. He left and got married to another woman. He made that choice of who he wanted to be his life partner, and his life partner is not partnering like she should. That's the choice he made. He was put in an unfortunate situation. But if his own wife, like he's married, if his own wife is not willing to help him, why are they reaching out to the ex-wife? The kids and the current wife and the current children should be the ones helping. It sounds like they're just trying to throw everything on her because they're tired, which is understandable, but he's literally not her responsibility anymore. If it were me, I would not be who am I to go over there? You have a whole wife who should be taking care of you, and children who have been and can continue to take care of you. Or they're talking about she needs to pay for a caretaker. Why don't the children pay? They're all grown, presumably working adults. There's 4 of them. If they split the cost between the 4 of them, then the wife, I'm sure they could come up with something. So someone says, not the a-hole. It's genuinely sad how little your children and former in-laws care about your happiness. It must have been very difficult for you to hear those selfish words from your own kids. It raises the question as to whether anyone ever took your part during the marriage or its dissolution. Dan is not your problem. His wife and their children are not your problem. Your kids are all fully functioning adults who need to put on their big girl and big boy panties and deal with this situation on their own. Go with Angela. Perhaps the time together will help you heal from the hurt caused by the insensitive and demanding people back home. At the very least, it will reinforce that you made the right choice by starting a new life with her. Someone else says, I'd love to know what OP's 4 children and those in-laws are doing to help, because there are 6 of them, so it seems it sure would be easy to collectively make up for what they expect OP to do. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was thinking just the 4 kids, but there's the 4 kids of hers, plus the 2 in-laws, plus I think they mentioned that the ex-husband had other kids with the new wife. They might be a little bit younger, but there's at least 6 other people who can band together and figure this out, and they're putting everything on her. I don't get it. This commenter says, OP mentions what the wife is doing and how her parents have stepped up to help, but where are they in all of this? And then someone else says, I can't believe how they are trying to guilt you into doing this. You are not the a-hole. Put your existing marriage and yourself first. Dan is your ex, and he burned any goodwill when he decided to divorce you. Let his current wife deal with him. Hold fast against the pressure and enjoy your time away with Angela. I'm inclined to agree. As I said, I'm very sympathetic to the situation. A very sad and unfortunate thing that happened, but it really is just not her responsibility whatsoever. So there's an update 3 months later. This was September 2nd. I forgot about the password to this account and my stepdaughter showed me what to do. And once I accessed this, I saw that I got a few messages from people asking for an update, so I thought I'd share. First, a few people seemed to be confused, so let me be clear. I am a woman who is married to another woman. My own parents passed away years ago, so their opinion is irrelevant. My wife and I both have children from previous relationships, but we didn't meet until after our children were adults, so my wife and I are the only ones who have lived together. Now on to what almost everyone else cares about the most. I went on the cruise. It was great, and my wife and I had a really great time. My children were predictably unhappy, and I'm sure that my temporarily blocking of them didn't make it better. I probably would have blocked them too. Most of my children kept calling and telling me that I was a selfish and awful woman for choosing to go on the vacation instead of being there for the family, but like many of you have stated, I reminded them that their father divorced me and therefore my obligations to him ended. If it were any of them that had a medical need, I would cancel without question, but I would not for their father. I thought I could leave it at that, but because they kept calling and texting the first 3 days of the trip, that's when I decided to block. Unfortunately, my ex's health took a turn for the worse, and he had to go back to the hospital, and his lack of proper care triggered an investigation. I didn't know any of this until I unblocked my kids the day I got back, and some of them blamed me. What? How's that her fault? I've come to the conclusion that they're all just mad at the situation, and I'm a convenient villain. I've accepted this because I can understand the fear and anger of facing the idea of losing a parent that you love. I just hope that one day we can all sit down with a family therapist and mediate the situation. However, this did start to trigger my past tendencies of sacrificing my own happiness and well-being for my children, but my wife, therapist, and even a small piece of my inner self had to remind me that my children are adults and that my ex isn't my responsibility. I tried to reach out, and so far, most of my children aren't talking to me and have made it very clear that I will not be able to see my grandchildren as a punishment. That's just not right. It's sad, and I'm still wrestling with the guilt and doubt, but my wife and stepchildren are being very supportive, while my other family is a mix, and most of my friends are neutral. And a couple of comments here. One person says, all I take from this is that your grown kids were not able to take care of their own father. Someone else says, sounds more unwilling than unable. Right. And someone else, not the a-hole. Yes, it is hard when you have an ill parent in the hospital. I've had the experience myself. Your children are 4 siblings who can divide the work between them. You have no obligation. Your children's demands are sounding very entitled. And then another person, seriously, I went to see my mom every day in the hospital for 3 weeks because I'm a freaking only child. There are 4 of them plus a wife? OP responded to that and said, all my children have families of their own, and my ex lives about 45 minutes to an hour away from all of them. So I imagine it's not as simple. I mean, I get that it's not that simple, especially if you have a family of your own and it's 45 minutes or an hour away. But again, there are 4 of them. So if one person takes Monday, one person takes Wednesday, one person takes Thursday, one person takes Saturday, the wife takes all the other days, you have all the days covered. If each kid goes just once a week, and then their spouses or whoever, partners or whatever, should be understanding that once a week they're going to have to be taking care of their dad, it could definitely work. Plus the in-laws, honestly, the in-laws, that's 2. And then the wife. So really everybody could just have one day. Because that's 7 people. It's sounding, they literally could just set up a schedule where each person has a day, but it's sounding like they're the ones unwilling to do that. So instead, as someone mentioned, they just want to put all the blame on OP. This is quite different from the previous story we read, where it was just the one OP doing everything by themselves. They have plenty of other people to help them in this situation. So it just sounds like a bunch of excuses. Yeah, so this other person says, there are 4 of them, which means they can take turns going. They are just not willing to come up with a workable solution when it's so much convenient for them to guilt, manipulate, and shame you into taking on responsibilities that are no longer yours. The audacity of your children. Please don't make excuses for them. They are being very crappy to you right now. They don't care about you, your well-being, your new marriage, your happiness, etc. All they care about is their comfort, and they are willing to sacrifice yours to ensure theirs. Those are very selfish individuals. Maybe a break from them is necessary. They need to start seeing you as an individual with her own life, needs, etc., and not just an extension of their father or as a tool that can be taken out, used, and then put away when it's no longer useful. Completely agree. Let me see if she has anything else. So just some more context from a comment that she left. She's saying that right now the kids all live about 40 minutes to an hour away while she lives 20 minutes. She said she doesn't speak to her ex, so she didn't even know his address, and I guess that he lived so close. She says that the kids say that they're bringing him food, feeding him, giving him medication, making sure he's clean, and taking him to appointments. At least that's what they say. I'm inclined to believe something different given the fact that his health rapidly declined and he ended up back in the hospital with a pending investigation. But she says her and her wife have no kids at home and are both earning good money, so they do have more time and disposable income, which is why the children want or expect them to help. And then she says, if I'm being honest, I don't think I can entirely blame them because I had a people pleaser mentality that's taken me a few years of therapy to unlearn. So I feel like that's where my kids get their entitlement from when it comes to me. Yeah, it sounds like pretty much the whole time growing up, she was just like the yes woman and went along with everything and said yes to everything and took care of the home and put out this fire and fixed this issue and sewed up this garment. And she was just that go-to person, didn't leave because she wanted her kids to have a stable home, etc., XYZ. And so they've kind of learned that, oh, like mom will take care of it. That sounds like the relationship that they have, but not this time, buddy. All right, so that is the last main read of the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Road to 10K. We have 2,500, was it 2,500 or 35? 3,500 more subscribers that we need to hit 10K this month. Can we do it? Find out next time on the episode of Dragon Ball Z. So the palette cleanser that we have today is a video. I actually saw this video on TikTok the other day, and I had sent it to like my friend and my sister because I thought it was so cute and funny. But it's this dog who likes to sing. It's a lady sitting on a couch with her camera. She has her dog sitting right next to her. He's like propped up on a pillow. I think she starts by starting to sing a song, and the dog wants to join in like immediately, but she's like, wait, like, I guess it's not your part yet. So the dog is like eagerly wanting to jump into the song, and then finally they do.
Wait, I just started. I haven't even sung anything yet.
They're like, I want to. I don't know. That's so funny to me. They were waiting for that moment. Let me rewind it. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.